Welcome to the Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Insightful and witty commentary, probing interviews, and detours from the beaten path.
Hey there, welcome every 2 weeks. It is a joy to join you folks on Thursday at DannyClinkscale.com and the Reasonably Irreverent podcast for Thirsty Thursdays. It's a joy to join you all the time for our music podcast, Monday Musings. We'll be doing a lot of football coming up soon, our personality profiles, which are so enjoyable to do, but there isn't often that I kick back and have beers during my podcast. In fact, it's never. It is never, except for this one. And Joe and I get together and talk about crazy stuff and important stuff and information and history. And when you can go from, I don't know, the Pony Express to driving too fast when you're a teenager to bad beer to Vegemite, pickle tastings. I mean, what more could you ever want? Jimi Hendrix to Bozo the Clown. I mean, we've got it all here at Thirsty Thursdays, Sense and Nonsense. I'm feeling both sensible and nonsensible today. I think we're having another beer tasting, which is always going to be fun. I'm actually wetting my whistle before we do the tasting with a really delightful lemonade shandy from Goose Island. Very, very nice. Very nice. And so it goes all over the place. You know that. And tell your friends. Tell your fellow business owners. Thirsty Thursday could use some backing. No. We're fine. We're fine, actually. But if you want to pump up the volume, that would be just dandy. Just dandy. Dandy as shandy. And I'm going to stop doing awful rapping here right now. Another edition of Thirsty Thursdays right here on the Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Let's laugh. Let's, well, not cry, but let's dig in coming up next.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
Time to spend a few minutes with my good friend Jeff Dillon from Dillon's Heating and Cooling. And Jeff, what differentiates your company from others in the industry?
Plain and simple, we're honest. We have integrity, and we're going to do things right the first time. There's way too many companies out there that lie, cheat, hide things from the homeowner or customer, and we're not about that. It's kind of funny sometimes. I actually am so honest with some people, it kind of surprises them, but sometimes it's good for business, sometimes it's bad for business, but ultimately it's the kind of business that I want to run, is an honest one.
And that family way of treating things is part of your slogan, and it's also part of one of your great features that you offer to customers.
Our slogan is like family. Our most popular maintenance plan is called the Family Plan. It's very similar to a lot of ones out there. The little tweak that we do to ours, 1% off for every 2 years. They have a continued maintenance plan with us. If they have a maintenance plan for 10 years, then we give them 5% off. No questions asked.
You can find out more about Dillon's Heating and Cooling and all their great range of services at dillonsheatingandcooling.com. That's Dillon's with an S. The phone number, 913-214-1343. Cinematic Visions has been an affordable solution for professional media production in Kansas City since 2003, offering award-winning video production and creation, as well as a wide array of digital and social media management services. From planning, scripting, filming, editing, and post-production to delivering your product to a watching world, Cinematic Visions will provide professional and affordable services for you and your business with the necessary return on investment to make it all worthwhile. Cinematic Vision's goal is to unlock the power of storytelling through video and a strong online presence for your company. Beyond the numbers, they want to inspire and evoke your clients to feel and act. Let my friends at Cinematic Visions embed your brand where it belongs, in your customers' minds. You can find them online at cinematicvisions.com or with a quick phone call at 816-600-6300. If you'd like to join these and other great sponsors and market your business to a growing and engaged audience, contact us at danny@dannyclinkscale.com. Look forward to hearing from you. That was a crackling.
Think of that,
good
Danny.
thing. I'm impressed is what I am.
Welcome back, buddy. How you been?
I've been good. You know, we are actually under a month away from the trip that my wife and I are going to take to Wyoming and Yellowstone, and we're going to drive. And I think this has become a really, it's not like anything unique for people. Vahe Gregorian is on a trip to the Black Hills, the Star columnist, and it's just a beautiful place. And my wife and I did this for my book, Leaving Cancer to the for the Circus, and drove to the Black Hills. Then in 2017, we did the same sort of template where there was no plan, and we went more into Wyoming that time, and we're taking more time this time, almost 2 weeks, and we're going to get all the way to Montana and a little bit into Idaho, which is one of only 2 states
You've never been to?
that I've never been to, and I almost went to college there.
What's the other state?
Let me think what it is. Oregon.
Oregon.
I've never been to Oregon.
What do you got against Oregon, Danny?
Nothing. I just haven't happened to, many of the states have been because of work, NCAA tournaments. I've never been really to Washington, D.C., but I've been in the airport multiple times.
Well, that counts.
It sort of
Airport counts, sort of.
And
right?
I've really sort of never been to Washington either, but I've been to Seattle on multiple occasions on the way to Alaska.
Oh, are you Alaska guy? You like?
No, I just did the Great Alaska Shootout 3 times.
Oh yeah, that's right. We've talked about that. Hey,
anyway, it's fact check time.
It's fact check time, Danny. Are you ready for some facts?
I'm ready for some facts and hopefully not some fiction.
All right. You talked about how you've got resting bitch face last time.
I think at times I do, unfortunately. I think over the last few years I have tried to make a point of smiling internally more. But I think generally, yes, I do have a resting bitch face.
So the concept of resting bitch face has been studied by psychologists, and they think it has psychological implications.
Did they give any indication in your research as to when the phrase resting bitch face came?
I didn't,
because I think that's pretty new.
I didn't dig into it too much. This article talked about it being from the 2000s, but like the mid-2000s, 2005, something like that. I don't know.
By the way, I almost was continuing on with that shandy, but we're, I think, going to do a taste test
right.
of this. So,
Yeah.
ooh, that was a snappy one too. Ooh,
snappy.
It looks like.
Oh yeah.
Looks like you shook it up a little
It's
bit.
trying to get out of the can.
Just
Anyway,
a phase. We'll get to that.
so this concept has been studied by scientists with information technology. They use facial recognition software, and they found
Oh, we're going to get to this, but this is a good beer.
They found that the phenomenon, this is the part that was really interesting, it's just as common in males as it is in females.
Oh, I totally believe that.
And they found that it's a real thing, that it's like you can pick it up with facial recognition software. How about that? So it's not just a thing that we think, it's a thing that is really there.
And what are they researching? Because I think that many people who have resting bitch face are very happy people and generally going about the planet in a happy way. That's me.
Maybe, I don't know.
That's me.
Yeah, you're generally going through the world in a semi-happy state.
The happy cynic. That's my nickname for myself.
Okay, so what do we have here that we're trying here? We've got a Crane Brewing. It's
we're
just
interrupting
a
the
phase.
fact check
we
for
are,
this?
yeah.
Okay. It's Just a Phase by Crane Brewing Company. Crane is a fine company. They make very good beer. I've always enjoyed their beer. And, okay, let's give it a go. Well, I already tasted it, and I said it was really good, so...
So this is one of those fancy beers that's got almost a sticker on the can.
This is just delightful.
Oh, you're going first. There's a delightful lady on the can here.
New England style IPA. I don't even know what that means. And I'm from New England. Yeah, there's a fancy lady who looks like she's from a silent movie, sitting on a moon. And
so this is brewed in Raytown, Missouri.
This is excellent. Crane, give us a call. I just gave you a rousing. I mean, this is really good. This is going to get the highest
All right, where are you
rating
at
that
on
we've
it?
done so far. I don't know. I want you to go first. 'cause
No,
I'm
you're going first. I went first last time.
Well, I just want to. I'm trying to soak up all the elements of it here, and I always it's a 6%, and this is just great.
I wish you could see Danny's face. He is.
I mean,
he is elated.
It's an IPA that seems like, do they have one of those descriptions on here? A lot of times they tout the beer and what it is.
No.
Says nothing.
Nope.
This almost does seem like it has a little bit of grapefruit or some kind of
Like a blueberry or
some
something?
kind of fruity element to it. Slightly, but still I think this is great. I'm going 8.8.
Wow.
This is a great beer.
Wow. 8.8. This is more up your alley. This is more your kind of beer.
But this is like, if you don't like IPAs, this is your IPA.
It's a little smoother of an IPA, and I'm not the biggest IPA guy. I'm going to go 7.5 on this.
Right, well, you're not I like IPAs, but
I know.
this is what you would.
I'm so happy you love it. It's brought joy to your
It has.
to your resting bitch face. It has gone away.
If somebody says, you got to bring me an IPA to convince me I'm going to like an IPA,
It's just a phase.
this might be the one.
Nice. I'm
It's
so
just a
happy.
phase by Crane Brewing Company. Delightful.
I wonder if Seabolt knows these guys, these Raytown guys.
He doesn't drink, so I don't know.
Okay, last time you said that the U.S. Olympic Committee pays U.S. Olympic athletes.
They do, yeah, for gold medals.
So I looked it up. Yeah, they do pay them. There are
A
some
paltry sum.
performance bonuses is what they call them. Okay. So athletes get stipends directly from the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee. They pay their top athletes around $4,000 a month, plus performance bonuses. So they're making 48 gur.
Right, and I think I said for the United States the breakdown is 37.5, 22.5, 15. Gold, silver, bronze.
Oh, really? You didn't say that last time.
Oh, I guess I saw an article about it. I did it on another platform. I do so many podcasts, and that's bad.
Wow. How much for a gold again?
37.5.
Huh.
But I saw it in the context of an article that talked about how Singapore was like given $750,000 for a gold, but they weren't paying anything out.
What do you mean they weren't paying?
They didn't win any medals.
Oh, I got you.
So it would be a
Those
really
promises are easily kept.
big, right. By the way, I loved the last week of the Olympics.
Oh, did you?
Loved it.
What did you love about it?
Track and field.
Okay.
I love track and field. Mostly track.
Like the hammer throw?
No, track.
Okay.
I-
So track, not field.
I like high jumping, long jumping.
It makes sense because you were a runner.
Yeah, but it's not just that. It's this pure. This is the purest form. I mean, track and field is the purest form of athletics. Who runs the fastest? Who jumps the highest? Who throws something the furthest?
Yeah.
There's
I
not
can see
really
that argument.
There's not really very. It's the basis of all sports, basically.
Yeah.
There's not that many. Everything else sort of branches out from that, makes it more elaborate. There's more rules.
So which one of those three things you named do golfers have to do?
Well, they have to walk 5 or 6 miles. You're not
the basis of
you're
all
not going to get
sport.
into this.
Sorry, I couldn't help it. It just popped into my head because you're like, it's the basis of all sport. And you were like, run the fastest, throw the hardest,
Right.
and jump the farthest.
Well, for golf, you have to hit the ball maybe the furthest,
Uh-huh.
have excellent technique and touch around, maybe like you would for the javelin or something like that, although that's more of a power sport.
I feel like you're stretching here.
I've never, to me, the lamest, it's right up there with should Pete Rose be in the Hall of Fame, is what is and is not a sport.
I don't disagree. This happened organically, Danny.
to
'cause
me-
you said it's the basis of all sport.
Well, I mean, it is the, yes, and you can argue about darts and whatever. I'm just saying this is the purest form
Yes,
of athletic competition.
I agree.
Because there's almost no rules. And the thing that was funny is that I was enjoying the track and field in a context of where the American men's track and field team were having a disastrous. I don't think they won a gold medal.
Really?
Right?
I didn't follow the Olympics
I
at all,
don't
if you can't
believe.
tell.
and it was. I just loved every bit of the track and field. That's all I'm going to say. I loved it. Loved it.
Huh. All right. Well, good. We talked about Marvin Barnes.
Well, I'm glad you got to dig into that.
So I had
that
to
must
dig
have been
into
fun.
It was fun, man. Okay, so he died at 62. So he didn't die as young as I thought. That
He hung in there.
He hung in there for a while. He was homeless at one point.
I knew that.
He was a pretty bad drug addict, right? So he was
I knew
only in
that.
the NBA till like 80 or something.
Right, 30 years old, maybe.
Yeah, he had like 6 years in the NBA or something like that. But I found another funny story because you said a funny story about him, right? And maybe you've heard this before. Have you heard the airplane Louisville to St. Louis story?
Well, that was that. Yes, that's the one where he said
No, this is
game time is on time.
No, this is a different one. Okay, so
Oh yeah, that because actually the story I told was from St. Louis to on the road. So
yeah, so he says the story goes like this. One time he refused to board a plane from Louisville to St. Louis because the flight was scheduled to arrive before its departure time because they were going from the east to central.
Right, and that's a pretty damn short flight.
And he very famously said, I ain't getting in no damn time machine.
Sounds like Marvin.
So he rented a car and drove it.
I mean, Louisville to St. Louis, that's got to be like St. Louis to Kansas City.
It can't be far. Yeah.
It's not far at all.
It was an hour flight to Louisville, or hour 15 from here, right? I think I did that once.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, okay, we talked about the Hamptons, buddy.
Right.
And I didn't know where they were. And you stumbled around it for a while, but then you found it. And you
did.
were right. Ding, ding, ding. It is on Long Island. It's on the east end of Long Island. Long Island. Sorry. Long Island. And anyway, it's just south of Connecticut. And so I couldn't help it looking around on the map. So I'm not from the East Coast, so I don't know this stuff. But I find geography really interesting. So there's the Long Island Sound, which is the bay, and that's between Connecticut and Long Island.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I put the satellite view on, and I'm looking up and down the southern shore of Connecticut. Some pretty nice houses down there.
Oh yeah,
With
there's okay.
boat.
Then you go over to Rhode Island, and there's Newport's there, and that's like super rich.
Oh, really?
Uber rich. Huh. I mean, Newport is like, that puts they probably just look over at Connecticut and go,
Down their noses.
come on. Really?
Is that because?
Oh yeah, that's F. Scott Fitzgerald.
Is
and
that like rich people? Oh, those
Great
type
Gatsby
okay.
type of thing, I think.
So is that where the rich people get out of New York and they go to there because it's close
Yes.
enough to the city? And
Oh yeah, like Billy Joel lived there. All kinds of people lived on the end at the Hamptons. Not.
have we ever talked about this? Are you a Billy Joel fan?
I am a Billy Joel fan.
Okay.
I've actually, if you want to go to DannyKlinkScale.com, I wrote a blog. I don't write as many blogs as I did because you people don't read. So I found you listen more often. So I put a lot of work into my blogs, and I still do some. But I'm like, okay, I put twice as much work into that blog as I did to a certain podcast, and 25% of you decided that was what you were going to read instead of the gobs of people who. Anyway, I wrote a blog that was called Billy the Kid and the Enigma.
Okay.
And what it's based on is it starts off with the fact that I had DVR'd Billy Joel at Shea Stadium, which is a fabulous concert, and my wife refuses to watch. She can't stand Billy Joel.
Okay. Well,
She hates him.
we are me and her get along right well on this topic.
I will play some very early Billy Joel for you sometime, and I think you might be swayed some.
Okay.
Now, I'm not going to say that, and he's a very New York entertainer. And the whole blog, basically, and my whole thoughts on this are that I understand why people don't like Billy Joel.
Okay.
I totally get it. But at his best, in the Billy Joel era that I enjoyed, which is basically his first 3 or 4 albums, he's really a rock and roll entertainer.
Yeah.
And he's a fine piano player, and he's a good singer, and he writes clever lyrics.
I mean, I could give it another shot maybe, but it's just always been Needles. on a chalkboard.
And I'm never going to argue.
Needles on a chalkboard.
I'm never going to argue. But he's sort of like, he really is, and they, of course, toured together for years. He's just sort of like New York version of Elton John. A person who at the outset of his career basically was a rock artist of sort, or whatever you want to call,
makes sense.
Elton John.
Yeah, rock pop, whatever.
Rock pop. And then eventually, Billy Joel just eventually decided, there's no point in me recording new material, which he did for a long time. And then he just said, hey, I'm a Las Vegas style entertainer now. I mean, the guy has a standing concert date at Madison Square Garden every month, and he sells it out.
I know, but see, like, I'm supposed to be impressed by that, and I could just give two squirts about Madison Square Garden.
Right, but I'm just saying.
I give two squirts about New York City and all of the New York stuff,
I'm just saying that somebody who hasn't had a hit record for 30 years
you cannot
who can
deny
sell
the
out
success.
the greatest arena in the world. It's tab. Everything's the great. I was watching a promo the other day for the U.S. Open, which is coming up, and it was the Hamilton guy, Juan Mandel, whatever his name.
I know who you're talking about.
I always forget his name. I don't forget
Manuel Marquez or something.
No, Miranda.
There you go.
Miranda is right. Lin-Manuel Miranda. There we go.
Yeah, we got
there. And he's doing the narration of it, and it's like the greatest tennis tournament in the world and the greatest city in the world.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to argue with people. I love New York.
Okay, that's good. It's good. I prefer my cities not to smell like pee. That's just my
except
thing.
they don't. When'd you go there? Where'd you go?
I've not even been to New York.
See, there you go. That's the typical thing that people will say. It's not like I want to live there.
Yeah.
Although, as a young man, if I was a young professional, when I was a young professional as a broadcaster, I was in Utica and Milford and these little out of the way. But if I can't think of anything more, my daughter and her boyfriend now are returning to. My daughter is returning to New York, and she's going to live in Brooklyn, and he's going for the first time, and they're going to live there. And I can't think of anything more exciting for people who are 24 or 25 years old to live in an incredibly vibrant urban atmosphere like that. It's exciting. Just walking down the street is exciting.
Well, my daughter's there right now, and she would agree with you from the reports I'm getting back from her.
She's loving it?
She's loving it.
Oh, that's great.
She's like, everybody dresses so fancy, and there's just always so much going on. And, for me, it just doesn't sound appealing.
We need to get back to the fact check, but one of the joys of my life through get to go to many times to New York, because my wife has friends who have a condominium right near Times Square. I love running in the city. I love it. If I went tomorrow, even though I really don't run and shouldn't anymore, I would run. And one of the reasons absolutely was that I would run about 9 o'clock in the morning. And first of all, it's like playing football because you have to dodge people the whole time.
Okay, I can see that.
In these big, wide sidewalks. And then you have to make, if it's a red light, you make a left turn. I always just scoff at people who are stopped at the red light. I'm like, there's a green light right there. Just go left. And at the next block, you can get back to where you're going. It's block by block.
Yeah.
You pussy. But the other part about running at that time is that you're running in Manhattan, and these women are pouring off the subway.
Yeah.
Going to work. Dressed to the nines. Except
yeah.
they have sneakers on to walk to work. But there's just these beautiful women of all denominations and demographics, and they're dressed in business clothes, which...
Is that your thing?
That's a thing. That's definitely a thing. I love women in business clothes.
Wow, we are learning so much about you this podcast,
But
Danny.
it made running like I could just run and run and run. I'm like, look at this. This is awesome. And I'm dodging people, and I'm like Walter Payton out here. I mean, it's really fun.
All right,
I don't understand because where we are, it's probably a mile and a half to Central Park, which is where a lot of people run. And I like first couple times I went there, I ran up there and then ran in Central Park. I'm like, I like the hustle and bustle.
Yeah, well,
I'm enjoying that.
Yeah, that's why living there, maybe you'd want to go to the park because you got to get tired of that hustle and bustle.
I'm sure you do. Yes, I said I probably, but as a young person, I would love to give it a go.
When you get tired of it, you just head out to East Long Island, and you can head out to the Hamptons. We got a couple things left here. We got 2 things left here. Okay, so last time you talked about Daryl's House, which is this show.
Yes.
Daryl Hall does, right?
Yep, from Hall & Oates.
Yep.
Great show.
And you had said that it he kind of comes across as he's a big fan of himself.
Oh,
right?
There's no question.
So the internet agrees with you.
Well, I'm sure about that.
So I found this one review that said that the show had jumped the shark, and which I thought you would enjoy that phrase. And
review must be a little old.
And it said, here's a quote, Hall seems sort of jerkish. He always wears sunglasses inside. His conversations come off as smug and arrogant. He just doesn't seem particularly nice or interested. He's the guy waiting to talk, not listening.
I definitely agree with all that, but he does love musicians and he loves music and he appreciates that aspect. Now, the guy's he looks great. He's got great hair. And I think he has probably tiny little eyes with a lot of wrinkles, and he looks good with sunglasses inside. Why wouldn't you? I mean, he's completely vain, but so what?
Got tiny little eyes with lots of wrinkles.
I'm sure he does. I'm sure because he's blonde, and he probably has.
They said that there's a cooking segment halfway through that's just brutal.
It's not brutal. It's fun.
Oh, okay. Well, you like that segment, and then. I guess they had archived all of the old music on the website. You go back and listen to it, and they got rid of 90% of it. I guess they took it down because it wasn't recorded at a high enough level for.
Well, I'll say this: the show takes great pains to. It's live.
Live.
But they do fix it. They twiddle with it afterwards.
Okay.
But it is performed live, and it's. Hey, you trying to say that somebody is or isn't playing live now, no matter where they are in concert.
You go see them in person, and they've got a track. I mean,
right?
Everybody's playing with a track now. These little cover bands,
or they're auto-toning.
Yeah, you go down to the well, and you watch a cover band. There's some famous ones I won't name that are Kansas City famous. And I know enough about sound equipment. I've done sound. You look back there, they're playing with a track. I mean, there's a lot of them on stage that aren't playing. I mean, the drummer's playing.
Right.
And the backup singers are maybe not actually singing backup. I mean, there's a lot going on there now that you can do. Right. And I'm so jealous. Actually, I don't really care. I'm just jealous because I was in a lot of terrible sounding cover bands in my life. And boy, we could have had a track.
Yeah, I don't think that's – no, it does bother me. And I admire we don't need to hear more Mark Knopfler stories, but he records a lot of the albums that he does now, the solo albums, live in studio.
Whole band there,
take.
Yeah, old school, Smokey Robinson style.
Right. And, this was, maybe they got it on the first take, maybe they did a little overdubbing, whatever, but not much. So I admire that. I want more of that in my show, but you just don't know. To say especially when you're talking about, Justin Timberlake or these people who are dancing all over the stage like maniacs.
It's more performance art anyway.
Right, those are.
Okay, listen, this is the last fact check, and I saved it to the end. I didn't move it up when we were talking Olympics because this is cool. It's about water polo.
Wow.
So last time we talked about how I thought water polo should be a more popular sport because I found it to be the most entertaining of the Olympic sports. The game originated in the 1850s as a form of rugby that was played in a river. So it would be rugby in a river or lakes in England and Scotland with a rubber ball. Water rugby came to be called water polo, okay? So early play allowed brute strength, wrestling, and holding opposing players underwater until you could get the ball from them.
That sounds about right.
Right, so you could hold them underwater to get the ball back. So the goalie would stand outside of the water. So there were 2 decks, like a dock on either side, right? And the idea would be they wouldn't throw the ball at a net. It would be to get the ball and set it on the dock. So the keepers were not in the water. They were standing on the dock. And so they would have to try to jump in and tackle the guy before he could put the ball. I mean, brutal.
This sounds even more entertaining.
You're like jumping in on top of people.
It's like the MMA version
exactly,
of water
right?
polo.
So I thought that sounded like an even better version of water polo. Change it back to water rugby. Bring that back. You talked about how they would the water would be bloody from them being so rough underwater. And the most famous water polo match in history was the 1956 Summer Olympics semifinal match between Hungary and the Soviet Union. Okay? So as the athletes left for the games, Hungary had they were fighting for their independence from the Soviet Union.
Right. That sounds about like the time frame. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So and this is weird because I just listened to a podcast on this. It was a brutal put down. The Soviets did not pull punches putting the Hungarians down. I mean, it was like they just murdered a lot of people, not just the people that were fighting against them. So now you have the Soviets playing against the Hungarians. Okay. So many of the Hungarians vowed never to return home, and they thought their only way of fighting back was to beat them in the pool, right? So they say it was the most violent game in history. The water turned pink with blood from them tearing each other up. And they had to stop the game before it was over. The Hungarians beat the Soviets 4-0, and they had to stop the game before it was over because they were getting in fistfights in the pool, and the Soviets were getting the better of them in the fistfight portion of it, and they were afraid the Hungarian spectators were going to jump in the pool, and it was going to turn into a riot.
That sounds like, was the 56 Olympics in Hungary?
I don't know.
That sounds there's a no. Just I think the Summer Olympics have been in Hungary at least once, or once.
I mean,
maybe that was because if they were worried about the Hungarian fans, then maybe it was there.
This is what's great about the Olympics, though. Like this right here, right? Like, you know, they couldn't do anything about it, but by God, the only thing I can do is beat that guy from the Soviets that I'm lining up against, and all I can do is try to beat his brains in to get my point across. You know, there's been
Jesse Owens.
Yes, exactly. There's been so many of those cool things in the Olympics, you know, and you don't. There's not. I don't know. It's a different sort of environment now. You know, there were different sort of, like we talked about last time. There's different sort of points being made.
Right, and I think also that while there's pride in your country and you really enjoy representing your country, I think there's a lot more camaraderie and less hate among the athletes.
Yeah, and I think there's probably there's not the, East-West Soviet bloc,
right?
quote-unquote free world, good guy, bad guy thing anymore. So this was pretty easy. When we're invading countries, it's pretty easy to be like, hey, man, remember when you guys just put down our uprising, So
yeah, let's just go bleed in the pool. Let's go have some more fun coming up next. And do we have another tasting?
Yeah, I have another
Crane
Brewing.
It's going to be tough. Oh, so it's a double Crane evening.
It's a double Crane evening.
Oh, that sounds excellent. Like I said, if it comes anywhere near the It's Just a Phase, we'll have a story.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
Let's have a brief conversation with David Schmidt from Pro Millennial. David, what differentiates you from other financial organizations?
I would say the passion we have for seeing our clients succeed is probably paramount to what we do here. There's no joy greater than watching a client accumulate wealth. I had a client that I've had for many years was able to buy his dream warehouse. Nothing too extravagant, but we had a savings plan in place and was able to see him fulfill his dreams.
And what else motivates you in this industry?
Well, lately it's been finding out inconsistencies in the marketplace, ferreting out some more than questionable ideas out there that what we're seeing with Bitcoin and a few of these other cryptocurrencies right now. I'm in the opinion where if it's untraceable, it really needs to be regulated in a big way right now.
To get more information and advice from David, visit promillennial.com or call 816-221-7775. That's 816-221-7775. We're here with Michael Barber, the CEO and founder of Microlight Corporation of America, the world leaders in laser therapy. And Michael, tell us a little bit about your product.
Our device is using a particular wavelength and power to reduce pain and swelling. My background is surgical lasers, but I've been involved with this particular device now for about the last 20 years, actually.
And I know that it works because I've had it used on me as well. And tell us about the relationship you have with your company in Canaway.
It's what I call a strategic business relationship, in that Canaway, the leader in the field of the cannabinoid systems and CBD oil, but our device used in conjunction with Canaway CBD oil gives a better pain relief outcome for the patient.
And if you want to get that pain relief outcome like I did, you can reach their local representative, Sherry McCants, at 515-208-6312. That's 515-208-6312. We're here once again with Dr. Brad Woodle from Advanced Sports and Family Chiropractic and Acupuncture. Springtime, good weather's finally here. People want to stay active, and it's your job to make sure that they can stay active, and be healthy.
Danny, we see a lot of not just weekend warriors, but people that every day are having that want to get back to activity. Whether you're starting with walking, jogging, or maybe that first 5K of the year, we want to help you out. We specialize in taking care of all ages, from kids all the way to grandmas and grandpas, but absolutely specialize in getting you back to full function and keeping you in great shape.
So in short, how do we go about doing that?
The first thing is to schedule a consultation with one of our doctors and therapists so we can see how you move and how you're supposed to move. Based on our assessment, we can put together a short treatment plan and a set of goals to help you both feel better, function better, and most importantly, stay better for this year and many years to come.
Learn more at asfca.com/Danny. That's asfca.com/Danny.
Hey everyone, this is Matt Llewellyn for the 23rd Street Brewery. Thank you so much for supporting local restaurants, especially through this pandemic. And you know what? We're almost through it. At the 23rd Street Brewery, we have brought in a few more tables. You can wear a mask if you want, or not. It's your choice. Other than that, we're open 11:30 every single day. So come see us at the 23rd Street Brewery in Lawrence.
If you'd like to join these and other great sponsors and market your business to a growing and engaged audience, contact us at danny@dannyclinkscale.com. Look forward to hearing from you.
Ooh. Well, that came up second best to the first segment. That was a little bit of a flabby open. Anyway, we have another Crane Brewing Company thing to test, and we are both curious.
Yeah.
Because this is a Crane Brewing Company, the pride of Raytown, Missouri. And by the way, no one has been compensated in the... That is available, however. Okay. And this is called Tea Weiss. And I assume that there's some element of tea in this.
Well, and a Weiss is normally a wheat beer, right?
Right.
A Weiss.
Or lightish. But it's almost not even beer.
Oh, really?
It's 4.1. It's a 4.1.
Good.
All right, let's see how we do.
Oh my goodness.
You know what? It's not terrible.
Okay.
I'm not going to go terrible. I don't. What's weird is I'm not getting any tea.
I'm not getting any beer.
It's kind of like a. What do they have? What do they call them? Sour beer?
Oh, is this a sour beer?
I don't know. It doesn't say. See, they don't have any description, but this seems like a sour.
It does. That would be why I don't like it.
And I don't like sours either, but I'm not going to say this is terrible. But I have a full citrus shandy over there, so I'm not going to say it's great either. I'm going to let it creep over 5, 5.2. I'm going to be generous because hey, Crane can't get mad.
What
I just gave their,
You just gave them the highest score they've ever had.
We've given, and this is also just if you like a sour, but if you like tea. I do pick up some tea. It's like the floral note of some tea. Yeah, we smell it. It smells like tea. It smells like flowery, like tea.
I would say we said 3 is pour out level, 3 and below. I cannot drink this. So
so that's a pour out.
It has to be 3 or below. I would say I got to go 2.8.
Wow.
2.8.
Wow,
that's where I'm going to
rough.
be. Yeah. Well, I'm not drinking it, Danny.
Well, I switched. I'm not saying it. But I'm just saying that's not, I've had chili beer. I've had beer that I've given away.
It is at the highest range of pour out. 2.8 is the high, about as high as you can get, and
so you're
and
not giving it
drink
like well, we didn't like Vegemite this thing. I mean, you didn't just like gag.
No, I almost threw up with the Vegemite.
so
I suppose I could drink this.
Oh, I could definitely drink
in a pinch.
But I don't like sours anyway. So
I didn't realize it was
but
a sour.
We
it doesn't
didn't
say
know.
sour.
We didn't know. It doesn't. Well, they don't really give you a description. They didn't on the excellent beer too. So Crane, just remember, I'm an honest reviewer. And that doesn't also, I'll say it with the caveat of just like I love the melon beer I brought for you, and you don't like melon.
Yeah.
And
I don't like that other one over there.
I don't like sours.
I don't care for sour beer either.
So anyway.
I was never going to purposely buy a sour beer, but I thought maybe we'd accidentally get one at some point.
Well, you did.
And we did.
That was a good blunder.
And we did.
Good blunder.
You went and saw Jason Mraz since we last got together.
I did.
You
and
a Raz head?
Well, this is
Razite?
This is pretty interesting because we went, and his new album is all reggae. It's completely reggae.
You a reggae fan?
I don't dislike reggae, but I need it in small doses.
Got it.
All right. Now I like sort of that. For instance, I liked Fine Young Cannibals and the other band that was associated with them in the 80s that had sort of a reggae.
Oh, you were thinking of
and it's the more famous one.
UB40?
No, not UB40. But anyway, I like some of the UB40 stuff.
Okay.
But if it goes, I don't want to watch a whole reggae show.
Got it.
And this wasn't a whole reggae show, but he had turned almost every song he does into some kind of a reggae beat. Okay. Now we still love the show. Now part of that was colored by the fact that it was an absolutely gorgeous night.
Oh, that's good.
It was like 80 and dropping. You almost eventually, almost needed a jacket.
This is and you're at Starlight.
Yeah.
Oh,
and it was
beautiful
at Starlight,
place to go.
And the crowd was good, but it was enough that my wife wasn't worried, and we got to sit with no people around us, sort of, for
good.
a few
Very
seats.
good.
But watching her, we stood for at least the first 40 minutes of the show, even though we didn't have to because we could have seen. And she just was beaming. And so he's a wonderful entertainer. There were 13 people on stage. It was wonderfully presented, but the reggae got a little. But for instance,
repetitive.
The second song was the first song was "Music Is Back," a new song, and it was so appropriate. And,
yeah,
and the whole show was upbeat, made you feel wonderful. The second song was "Remedy," which was a great song.
Didn't bury the lead,
but he did. It did have a little reggae feel to it, but it was still Remedy. Okay. So anyway, it was a great show. We enjoyed it. But what was funny is that it was Tuesday night, and then on Saturday, my birthday was Friday, and then on Saturday,
that's right. Happy birthday, buddy.
Saturday we had my daughter and her boyfriend over, my younger daughter, and she's in town, and now Friday she's driving to New York.
Yeah,
with her. So we're just talking, and we said, "Hey, Kennedy, you look great. That's a wonderful dress." She goes, "Yeah, I bought it for Jason Mraz." I'm like, "You were?" So she was there.
Oh my gosh!
We were there at the show. We didn't even know it, and she hated it. Her and her boyfriend hated it, and they're big fans. They're big Mraz fans, and they were pissed.
So they're razzers.
They were pissed.
Too much reggae for them?
Yeah, yes. And it wasn't the reggae aspect of it. It was that, hey, we love your music, and if you want to branch out a little bit, that's fine. But don't turn every single song we like into a reggae
Sometimes
song.
I have some sympathy for these stars because they played those songs so many times. But you know who?
I mean, that's what Bob Dylan did all the time.
I was at a place where I don't think one person disliked the show.
I'm sure. So you were at Garth.
I was at Garth. So I played golf with a buddy last week, and he's single, and he's dating around a bit. And he said,
"Good for him.
Good for him. He's a responsible guy. He's but he takes care of his kids and stuff. But when he's got some gals, and so he said, I'm afraid to take any of these gals to this show because if I take one of them, they're going to think,
that
holy
she's the
crap,
one. Right?
Because he had front row tickets to Garth.
Right. This is right. Oh, he's really.
I mean, these are some badass seats, right?
Right,
And so you
right.
got to be thinking.
Right.
So he's like, "Do you want to go?" And I'm like, "I'll be your girlfriend tonight. Whatever, front row at Garth. Let's do it." Right. So, okay. So
under different circumstances, always. I mean, Garth Brooks is
puts on a hell of a show.
Incredible entertainer.
So I decide to.
By the way, one of his people that he has sort of designed his template for how he performs on stage
It's Billy Joel.
Is Billy Joel. Yes.
I don't know about that.
You can fact check that.
Okay, I will be
Garth
fact
Brooks,
checking
he
that.
will absolutely say that Billy Joel is an influence of his.
Oh,
absolutely, positively.
So anyway,
there you go. That's a good one.
So
We'll have fun with that.
so they're tailgating out there, right?
And I'm 100% right. So
all right. So my buddy John and his group is out there. They're out there tailgating, and we had people over that day, and we were supposed to have them over for dinner, but I was texting my wife from golf. I'm like, Garth, front row? Question mark, question mark, question mark. Like, can they come over for lunch instead? You know? So then I'm not ready to go out there about 5:00, and I decide to Uber out there. And I tell the Uber driver, I'm here in Prairie Village. I know how to get to the stadium the back way. I mean, if you don't know Coal Mine Road, then I can't help you, right? So I'm like, look, I'm going to tell you how to get there. We don't have to sit in traffic. He said, well, I'm going to do the thing that the phone's telling me. And I'm like, you're going to regret this. And he's like, I really think it won't be too bad. I said, okay.
Well, he's probably not going to regret it is what he's thinking, because doesn't he get paid more?
No, he gets paid.
It's
not like a cab driver.
It's by the ride.
Yeah, so I always try to save my Uber drivers because they're getting paid for the mileage, right? So we pop out on the 435, and what do you know? Stop and go, right? So we get within about a mile of the stadium, and I'm getting text messages like, you got to get here. We're going in. And so I just tell the guy, hey, appreciate the ride. I hop out. Fortunately, I had a roadie with me.
Tall one?
So I hike it. I hike it all the way into the stadium.
Like a mile?
A mile down the highway and then into the stadium, probably another mile. I probably walked 2.5 miles to get there to the tailgate.
Like 35, 40 minutes?
I'm in walking shape, Danny. I do a lot of walking.
Well, I know, but walking is a 10-minute mile is a pretty good walk.
Well, I'm probably like 15, 16-minute mile on this walk.
Say, right.
Yeah, and so, it was a bit of a walk. But I get there, we have a couple parking lot beers real quick on the way in. We go in, and we are on the floor. We are like on the floor right there. And just local celebrity after local celebrity comes streaming by, right? Like the Fox 4 Sports guy. And so here comes, I look over my shoulder, and here's Alex Gordon, right? And I'm like, hey, AG, you're my dog. Like, AG was my guy. He was my favorite player.
I have never heard him called AG.
Oh, well, Danny, had you ever heard anybody call Patrick Mahomes Patty Icicles before, right?
So but you said AG to him?
Oh, yeah, he eyes lit right up. I don't know. Maybe he's heard me all these years in the stands, Danny. I don't know.
I've been around Alex Gordon 300 times. I've never seen his eyes light up.
Well, we even did the, how when you meet somebody and there's like an awkward handshake,
right?
We even did the like bro handshake slap thing perfect. I was very proud of myself.
Right.
And then John, my buddy, was like, here, let's get a picture. I was like, no, leave him alone. Let him go to seat. And he's like, no, man, I'd take a picture. And I showed you the picture.
You did.
It appears, everyone in the pictures had a couple beers.
Right. It's like Alex, he's retired now. And
it was a good time, man. And
I'll spare any bad Alex Gordon stories now for this moment. We'll save those for another time.
Don't meet your heroes.
No, he's actually a good guy. He is a good guy. He's just I'm glad he was having a good time, and I think I
imagine he can be short and to himself because he probably doesn't like people that much.
Let's leave it for another time.
Okay, we'll leave it for another time.
AG and you.
AG and I got a great picture. So
it is a great picture.
Thank you. And then Garth put on a great show. It was a nightmare getting out of there, though. I mean, getting out of there was worse than a Chiefs game. It took us forever to get out of there, but he played all the hits, and he does his little vignettes in the middle where he's like, they hold up the sign like, I had cancer, and Garth saved my life, or whatever. He's like talking to them in the crowd. It's a little cheesy, but that guy's got a lot of energy. I don't know how old he is now. He's got to be in his 50s, right?
Right.
And that guy can get around. Like, he covers 5-6 miles on that stage in a show.
Well,
he's not stuck behind a piano like friggin' Billy Joel.
Back in the day, he did a primetime network special on NBC. I remember that.
It was in the 90s, maybe.
Right, and he flew around. He was in, did like Pink or something. He flew around in a trapeze.
Oh,
type of deal.
I do remember that,
Did the whole thing. I mean, he's a great performer. And I'm not a big, I hate low places. Hate it. But I'll forgive him for it.
I mean, here's the thing. I hated Garth Brooks growing up. I grew up in central Kansas where everybody listened to country. We hated country growing up.
I mean, what's the song Thunder Road? That's a fabulous song.
Thunder Rolls is a good song,
Thunder Rolls, not Thunder Road.
Don't you Thunder Road. No, he's not the boss.
No, he's not.
Easy.
Thunder Road, I'm sorry. I mean, Thunder Road's where is that in your...
On the boss list?
I mean, it's one of my...
Thunder Road's... the live version of Thunder Road from the box set is my number one favorite.
Well, then
Bruce
we're
Springsteen
on pretty much, close
nice.
term. I mean, it's ridiculous.
10th Avenue Freeze Out's number 2. I mean, that song's
I'm
cool.
not the biggest fan of 10th Avenue Freeze Out.
Really?
But I'm like Rosalita. I'm a gigantic fan.
Oh, Rosalita guy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this is
Interesting.
probably left for another. This is a rabbit hole we could go.
We'll do this after the pod. Anyway, the point is, did not care for Garth growing up, but, saw him at like the State Fair. You throw on a great show. Still putting on the same show. 25 years later.
Right.
Putting on the same show. Still having a good time.
How many people up there?
Still at least 15 people. And still pretending to be surprised when everybody claps at the end of a song. That's the one thing that he used to do that I remember so much from the other times I've seen him that he still does, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I know the words to my songs, It's just like, come on, man. You got to lose that at some point.
I think he is. I think he's a genuine. I interviewed him once and at spring training, and I think he is a genuinely nice person. And I think that some people are just able to get past everything and separate that. And he quit.
Yeah.
So, that
shutting it down probably helped.
And he's big enough that he can just say every now and then, I'll just go out and do a bunch of tours. And you know what we did well here as we get close to the finish?
What's that?
We didn't make this in any way political with Garth. And he's not political. He was so like
so good, yeah.
Even-handed going in and saying the right things, but not.
Yeah. You did bring up a good point, though, that I have to hit, that he's so many musicians don't do. He was like, saw what was coming in Nashville with hip hop and the whole like new country, and he was like, I'm not going to have a guy rapping on my country song. I'm just done.
Right.
And then I'm going to let it come back around where I'm the legend, and then I'll come back out and I'll put an album out and I'll play. And like a lot of artists could learn from that. Like,
just
like
do what you do.
Yes, like when Motley Crue made their grunge album in 1996. I still remember. That's a great example for me. It's like, just go away for 10 years, Motley Crue, and then people will like you again because it'll be like, oh, everything comes back around,
Right, and if you're like desperately desirous of whatever, you can be clever with it. I mean, the Stones did some really almost straight up disco.
Yeah.
But it was good.
Yeah, if you're the Rolling Stones, then you can do it. Like,
right.
And I'm not disparaging Garth, but I think that Garth was like, I don't want to do that. I think there are some artists who can, but he's like, I don't want to.
Well, it'd be like if George Strait decided to,
to have Jason Aldean rapping on his...
just be George Strait.
You just be friggin' George Strait.
That's right.
You got 50 number one hits,
and
man.
especially in the realm of country music, people are so loyal to, to the artists that, they don't need you to go all Florida, Georgia line.
Exactly. You know how many masks I saw at that show?
7? None.
0.
It was almost like that's the thing. If you were one of the people who were thinking about wearing a mask and then you walked in and nobody's got a
I had it in my, I brought one. I brought my cool like bandana mask, and I'm walking up there. I may have spilled some Coors Light on it on the way in. And so I was very happy that nobody was wearing a mask, because I was like, well, I'm vaccinated and
right.
nobody's wearing one.
So it didn't bother you not to wear a mask?
It doesn't bother me.
Well, you also didn't have to be in a closed space.
Yeah, we're wide open. I'm not in a suite. I'm not like, I was texting with Jamie Bloom out there. He's up there in that suite. I'm like, hey.
Did he have a mask on?
I don't know. I didn't get invited to the suite.
Oh, you were only in the front row. Screw you. You know what? We just have fun on Thirsty Thursdays. I think the message here is just for people to try and find some way to coalesce and enjoy each other's company, maybe exchange a good idea or two, and maybe raise a glass or two. And you can always find common ground that way. So see you next time on Thirsty Thursdays, Sense and Nonsense.
We hope you enjoyed the latest Danny Klink Scale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Come back soon for something fresh and new. This podcast was made possible by our great sponsors like
Dillon's Heating and Cooling, treating you like family with expert and affordable HVAC services.